About the National Super Alliance, it is an idea that seems to have been proposed by Musalia Mudavadi, the leader of the ANC, and has been gaining a lot of traction, gentlemen, especially from CORD, almost bringing some kind of discord in CORD. So Godfrey Otsotsi is the Secretary General of ANC. If you can just bring us up to speed, Godfrey, on where this matter has reached. Is it being implemented? Who is on board? Just what's happening? What can you tell us?
Okay, thank you very much. What I can say is that NASA is a message for unity. NASA is a message for inclusivity. NASA is a message of development. I agree with you that the brainchild of this idea of NASA was my party leader, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. We as a party, we have taken the necessary steps to engage the other stakeholders, senior political leaders in opposition parties, with a view of coming up with a broad, unique coalition. One of the steps we have taken is that last Thursday, we had a National Executive Committee meeting. And the resolution of the National Executive Committee meeting was to allow our party leader within the framework of our constitution to engage other political leaders. We followed up with the National Governing Council, which was held on Friday. And the National Governing Council made two very major important resolutions. One was that we as a party are willing to engage other like-minded political parties and non-political parties like the civil society, the trade union, with a view of forming an all-inclusive coalition of parties and those other organizations. Secondly, we mandated our party leader, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, to initiate discussions with other leaders with a view of forming a bigger coalition.
So he's free to engage now?
He's free to engage officially. He has been engaging, but now he's been given the mandate by the party organs, the NEC and the NGC, to officially engage the other parties. I wouldn't go into details of what we have discussed,
of course,
because those are matters which are confidential at the moment.
You don't want to give us the flag bearer.
Is that the process of coalition building is a delicate process, is a process that requires a lot of consultations, a lot of engagement. I think it's important for Kenyans to give it time. I think something good is going to come out of it.
All right, Dismas, let's take this further. We have the foundation of what has been happening. Raila Odinga, the CORD leader, has been very close to making joint appearances with the ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi, making some seemingly symbolic messages, seeming to point to the fact that they are indeed working together. What do you read from this?
Well, number one, as the political space is very clear, any politician in Kenya who ignores Raila Odinga, you do that one at your own peril. Be it Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo Musyoka, Moses Wetangula, or any other political player. If you do that, you're digging a hole for yourself. And I think it's become very clear to Raila Odinga that in as much as he enjoyed countrywide support, he is probably unable to become the president of the Republic of Kenya because of Raila phobia. His lieutenants would say there's no Raila phobia, but if you ask the late Omwalo Kijana, he will tell you people in central Kenya have got an irrational fear for Raila Odinga. And I think it has occurred to him that if you want to kick Jubilee out of office, you have to go look for strange political players and bring them together. So it seems like now the appetite from Musalia Mudavadi, Kalonzo, Wetangula, and Raila Odinga, the appetite to kick Jubilee out of office, it's so high that they've said, let's form a winning team. And what I see coming from NASA is that for them, the priority really is not about the flag bearer. The flag bearer, the person who wants to see the flag bearer from from NASA or from CORD is actually William Ruto. So one wonders, why is William Ruto very interested in establishing the flag bearer? And I think for NASA, the kind of strategy they've adopted is to keep Jubilee in suspense by telling them that we are forming a coalition. But right now, the priority is not even giving out the name of the person who is going to run. I think that's why they're keeping
they don't know
it
how
under-
to react to
But
that.
I can almost bet that Mr. Raila Odinga has actually made up his mind on how he's going to run on either CORD or on the NASA ticket. But he's just trying to prepare Kenyans emotionally on the name he's going to reveal. Because nothing happens by accident in the political space. The fact that he saw Musalia Mudavadi with Raila Odinga in Laikipia, then the following day you see him in Tharaka Nithi. There's no accident in the political space at all. And the fact that Kalonzo Musyoka on the same day appeared a bit nervous because he was in a media conference and some journalists posed the question. He said nothing is static in the political space. And for me, I think for NASA stands a very good chance if only they recalibrate their message. Because right now you see a number of politicians associated with NASA saying that we are looking for these particular positions. And when Juku is not interested, who from NASA is going to become a minister or a CS. What they want is somebody who can liberate them.
All right.
And the biggest challenge for Otsosi and company are the sycophants who sit with his party leader, sycophants who sit with Raila Odinga, Kalonzo, and Wetangula, because those are the ones who would suffer most. Like, for instance, the sycophants around Raila Odinga, they know if Raila Odinga is not in the ticket, probability of them getting elected into office is almost zero. For the lawyers around Musalia Mudavadi, they know that if Musalia is not a presidential candidate, probability of getting a position is almost zero. I think those are the egos they need to manage. And if you want to confirm that the president has been rattled, for the last 3 visits, when he was in Kericho, when he was in Nandi and Machakos, he spoke about NASA. And one would have expected the president who is so confident about his re-election shouldn't be talking about NASA. So it seems to me that these ideas come at the right time to give Kenyans opportunities.
Bonke, what do you read from these appearances between Musalia Mudavadi and Raila Odinga?
Kitili, we are not desperate to have another president for this country because we have a competent president, that's Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta. The NASA, the so-called NASA or CORD, this is a confused coalition. Okay, NASA is not existing because no one is coming out to support NASA. Raila is not coming out to tell Kenyans that he's in NASA. Kalonzo is not coming out to tell Kenyans that he's in NASA. Neither Wetangula. Now, if you look at the NASA thing, based on your question, NASA is the governor, Isaac Ruto, who cannot even convince 5% of Kalenjin community to support his presidential candidate. So long as the former president, Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, is still existing, and Gideon is working with Ruto, the governor, and Gideon knows that there is nothing he can do as far as any political decision he might make without his father's consent. Remember, the former president is the one who introduced Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta into politics in 2002.
Yes.
So long as Moi is still alive, there is no any day the Moi family will support anything against our president.
All right.
Again, NASA or CORD, if you look at all these individuals, start from Raila, what are their development background, Raila.
All right. Before you get into that, and before I come to you, Prof, but like Dismas mentioned, if your Jubilee party is so confident of re-election next year, why do they keep giving that NASA that you say has no basis, but they keep mentioning it in their political rallies, giving them a lot of mileage? If they're not worried, why are they?
Oh, okay. What happens is this. The NASA thing is just to bring confusion in Rift Valley. NASA cannot convince anyone in this country. It's just to bring confusion in Rift Valley, to show Kenyans that the deputy president has some guys, as people who are opposing him in Rift Valley. So NASA cannot exist. And I'll assure you, even if they go with NASA, these people will not get even 5% of votes in Rift Valley. So we cannot just shut our mouth when they are spreading propaganda in the Rift Valley. You know?
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Go. Yeah, Prof. The Prof hasn't spoken.
Yes, I haven't spoken. Actually, I'm embarrassed by his comments.
Why do you say that?
First, look at a very loose coalition was formed in the Gambia, all right? The last 3 months before the election, and the candidate was known a month before the election, and they beat the incumbent. That's just a live example. Two, if you go back in our history, NAC, the one that brought Kibaki into power, the sycophants, like my colleague here, were talking relentlessly about how worthless the thing was, how cowardly Kibaki was, how, I don't know, confused Raila was. The truth was, they removed a government that had been in power.
But can you compare NAC to NASA, to be honest?
No, the comparison is not particularly tight. But there is a very important thing. NASA is in its infancy. So the strategy that the ruling coalition is taking,
right,
particularly my colleague here, is that please keep saying it cannot be, which is blatantly wishful thinking. But there is a bigger point I wanted to make. I consider it irresponsible to be talking about percentages people will get when you are having a conversation about an idea. I mean, it's irresponsible because we know what numbers can do.
We're just trying to analyze the situation, Prof.
Making a responsible statement is not analysis. It is a reckless statement. What I wanted to say is...
Prof, what do you call it irresponsible?
Irresponsible because, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Sosi stated clearly that it is a message. All right?
All right.
Now, you begin assigning a quantitative figure to a message. In other words, if it is not a sign of nervousness, what else can it be? That's my comment.
There's too much biochemistry into this political analysis. But let's bring in Brian Muti. Brian Muti is a political commentator here on the show, joining us from KTN's Studio 2. Brian, if you can hear us and you've been following this, what do you take about, what is your take on this, this NASA that has been gaining a lot of momentum lately? And where does it put the other core, co-principals, Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula?
Thank you, Ben, very much. I like the energy within the studio there. And I'm so much excited also to be part of that debate. Basically, if 2000 is anything to go by in Kenyan political landscape, is anything to go by, I think Jubilee government has something to worry in the name of NASA. The reason why I'm saying so is that Raila and company, which includes Kalonzo, Wetangula and all that, they have at least a reference point to draw lessons learned from 2002, 2007, where they were able to actually put the best mechanisms in place to ensure that at least they gave the incumbent, if not a loss, but at least 2007 they gave them a run for their money. And what I'm trying to say is that NASA being still in the formative stage is something that should give a Jubilee government sleepless nights. And if you look at the composition of the key protagonists or the key stakeholders within the NASA, perceived team, you realize that it draws about, it draws from most of the bigger communities in terms of votings and all that.
All right. Thank you, Brian. We'll be coming to you shortly. Let's go to Kisumu and find out what Jared Okello has to say about this. Jared, where does this leave your party leader, Moses Wetangula?
Well, thank you, Ben. It is important to note that it is only the year 2002 that Kenya was able to, through opposition, remove an established government that had entrenched itself in leadership since its independence in the year 1963. The chemistry that worked then is what we have seen starting to form as we head towards 2017 election. You have to take note that NASA, which is already being talked about, is not documented. It is not a legal entity. But the mere fact that it has been mentioned out there has sent shivers all the way to the House on the Hill State House. They are not sitting pretty, and they have started throwing stones at the potentiality or the potential of this coalition clinching presidency. From the pronouncements that you have seen coming from both the president and his deputy, Raila Odinga just visited the South Rift barely a week ago. And in 3 days, an established government that we think operates on a particular diary had to run to the South Rift in order that they can galvanize that particular region. I know plans are now afoot to go to Tharaka-Nithi,
Yes.
where Raila visited, and perhaps Laikipia. So what Raila has done is to give Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto some work to do.
All right.
That has been lacking. And NASA may not even be the resultant party to run with. But what we are going to see is that we are going to have a united opposition with
All right.
gusto to face Jubilee government in power. And as somebody has said, that we are drawing parallels from what happened in Gambia. We have seen a united opposition fronting a candidate a month to election and clinching presidency. That is what we are going to see. Now, you asked me about where does that leave my party leader? Now, my party leader has been in CORD. He's still in CORD, and he's actually one of the brains behind the creation of a united opposition to face Jubilee government out of power. So he's part and parcel of this process.
All right, thank you, Jared. You are very eager to say something to what Bonke was saying.
What Bonke
About
was saying
NASA.
was a reflection of the panic within the Jubilee government. Because Deputy President and even the President has been heard on several occasions say opposition must put their house in order. We have put our house in order, put your house in order. How are they getting concerned when we start putting our house in order?
All right.
We are putting our house in order by building a bigger coalition that is based on policies, a bigger coalition that has a vision for this country,
All right.
not the Jubilee that has no clue.
All right. When we get back...
On anything.
All right. When we return, we shall talk about more on this. We'll get a reaction from him. We'll talk about if the other coalition for reforms and democracy co-principals are worried, and if indeed this super alliance is destroying the CORD unity. We'll talk about all that. But let's take you to our breaking news, developing story we have been following up here on KTN News all morning. That is the tragic accident that happened along the Naivasha-Nakuru Road. And of course, we have been telling you that 40 people have been confirmed dead. Those are unofficial numbers. We have been expecting a briefing from the government to just tell us what the official death toll is. And we are expecting a joint press briefing. Abbas Gulet, head of the Kenya Red Cross, CS Interior, Joseph Nkaiseri, Inspector General of Police, Joseph Bonnet, as well as the National Disaster Management Unit will be there. Jeff Kirui is standing by at Harambee House, ready for us. Jeff, good morning. What are we expecting?
Well, very good morning, Ben. Indeed, we are here at Harambee House, and the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, is already here, as well as the Cabinet Secretary, Interior, Joseph Nkaiseri, who, as well as also Secretary General Red Cross, Abbas Gulet, who are here to give us an official update regarding the tragic accident along Naivasha-Nairobi highway. And as of now, the figures actually, they are claiming that about 40 people have lost their lives, but those are unconfirmed figures. We are expecting CS Interior, Joseph Nkaiseri, as well as the Red Cross Secretary General to confirm those figures. And Ben, what I can tell you right now is that now it is turning, or is being turned on NTSA, the National Transport Authority, putting to put to perspective the reason actually why the bumps were erected along that area. Remember, there has been concerns being raised by citizens regarding the strategic places where those bumps were erected, and now it is being turned against them. We are expecting as well the Transport Permanent Secretary as well is going to give us an update on the same, with question being raised as to why that trailer preferred to use the Nairobi-Naivasha route opposed to using the Mayu-Mayu route, where those trailers were gazetted to use. Well, Ben, as of now, we don't know exactly what time the CS Interior as well as IG Boynet are going to give us an update, but we will keep you posted immediately the press conference starts.
Many thanks, Jeff Guri. They are coming to us live from Harambee House, where we are expecting any time to have that joint press briefing to just inform Kenyans on the latest on that tragic, that horrific accident along the Nairobi-Kijabe-Naivasha road that has claimed the lives of at least 40 people. Those are the unconfirmed numbers. What we have been able to get from our crew on the ground is that 26 bodies were pulled out of that accident, burnt beyond recognition. That is the latest from the police command center in Naivasha. We have Victor Ogale keeping an eye on things at the Naivasha Hospital mortuary. Deputy President William Ruto is making his way to the scene to Naivasha. KTN's Rita Tinina is keeping an eye on that. We shall be speaking to Rita very shortly to get the latest for you. We are following that for you very closely. Very shortly, we shall be taking you back to Harambee House for that joint press briefing. Meanwhile, let's try and talk some politics here. And we were on the NASA bits, and he has been blowing holes into NASA, but at the same time, Jared Okello tells us that Moses Wetangula has been advocating for unity of the opposition and all that, and that they are on board. Are the other core principles, in your opinion, comfortable about this?
The other core principles, especially Kalonzo Musyoka and Moses Wetangula, will not be comfortable with these arrangements, but they don't have a sweet alternative. They will not say they want to join Jubilee. Because you recall when Salem Davadi said that there's need for opposition unity, they're sycophants. Kalonzo sycophants as well as Wetangula sycophants said there's a queue, that if you're coming to court, you need to join a queue. And in essence, they were telling Salem Davadi that we have Raila Odinga, there's Kalonzo, there's Wetangula, and if you want to join us, you're going to be number 4. And I think for the longest time, people have underestimated Salem Davadi. They've been saying that he doesn't even know how to address a speech. They've been claiming that he's like Mwai Kibaki, he's seated on a fence and waiting for manna from heaven. And I think he read the 48 rules of power, and he applied rule number 17. He has managed to reposition himself and grow up NASA, or rather grow up the Amani National Congress. You recall again his biggest undoing during the last election. He was given a political party called UDF. Yeah. And he did not have the instruments of power. So he didn't even know what the party membership, he didn't know what the Secretary General, but he decided to form his own special purpose vehicle called Amani National Congress, where he's actually in charge. And this idea of NASA, in as much as he's been credited as being the architect, this is an idea that has actually grown beyond him. It's no longer Musalia Mudavadi. Because when you speak to people in the streets, they tell you, we want politicians to form maybe 10% of these mathematics. We want other people to come in, civil society, public service. Even today, if you speak to policemen, they're very disappointed with the Jubilee administration. They'll tell you want to be part of NASA, but because of their station in life, they cannot talk about it. So obviously, Kalonzo will not be happy with this. Wetangula will not be happy with this, because when Musalia Mudavadi comes to the table, he's coming and is having a one-on-one with Raila Odinga in the absence of Kalonzo, in the absence of Wetangula, and these guys have no idea what these two people are talking about. But I think for them to be able to make progress is to run with the idea that Bonkeya has claimed. He's made a statement that we should put into test. He has said that President Kenyatta is very competent. He's a competent president, that Kenya does not need another president. Maybe we need to look at the parameters. What makes him tell us that President Kenyatta is competent? And just a moment, President Kenyatta said that the next election, people should be judged on their track record. I quote him, he said, tell us how many kilometers of roads you've built in the last couple of years. So for me, I'd like the people in Jubilee to tell us, these are our manifesto, these are the promises we made, and this is what we have been fulfilled. And if I may just pose a challenge to him so that when he goes back to the strategy meeting, he knows what to talk about. They claim they've done a number of kilometers of roads. And we know that in Kenya, shockingly, doing a standard road in Kenya would cost you about 100 million for a kilometer, a standard road. While in Ghana, which has just got a new president, it's about 25 million. In Ethiopia, it's about 50 million. So these are the kind of issues we want them to bring to the table so that we interact with them. And even now for Ososi, They must tell us that the leadership in NASA, this is what they've done in the past so that we can believe what they're going to tell us in future. Because if you take them at face value, we may end up in the Jubilee space.
So 2 challenges for Tsotsi and for Bonke. Bonke, let me start with you so that you can give a lot of reaction points to your thoughts.
My brother here is questioning the competence of our president. Remember, when His Excellency came into power in 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta had an issue at The Hague. And the same Raila Odinga said that that was a personal issue. And the president treated it as a personal issue with our deputy president. By then, they thought that the president will be detained at The Hague so that they can take advantage of that. Raila knows very well that he can't be the president of this country. I'm from Nyanza. Tell me what Raila has done in Nyanza that can make you, as a young professional Kenyan, to vote him as your president. Remember, charity begins at home. As we speak, the rate of HIV/AIDS in Kenya, KTN aired that the other day, that Homa Bay County is leading in HIV and AIDS.
Right.
Let me tell you something, Kitili. Raila has divided some counties, to block them, not to access what the national government should offer to any Kenyan who is paying tax. The president has done a lot for Kenyans. Remember when we had this issue of water hyacinth in Nyanza, Raila Odinga has never spoke about it. All MPs, ODM MPs, they are worshiping Raila like they are God, including governors. Look at what is happening in Mombasa County. They are talking about corruption, or the Jubilee government is corrupt, while Raila is using county government money to finance his campaigns.
Can you prove that? Can you substantiate that?
What we will say is, okay, tell me where WIT is taking the Homa Bay, the money is getting from central government. Where is it taking that money? And if you want to test this, remember when they were celebrating, they went for on an Otieno Kajwang anniversary. We were so embarrassed for Podokaluma to fight for his constituents, and his constituency is the most affected. He was fighting in front of those who elected him.
All right.
So what we are trying to say is this. The so-called NASA, actually I should not even give NASA any attention. In that coalition, call it NASA or COD, no one there is qualified to be the president of this country. Raila has been vying since 1997, up to tonight. He has no strategy on how to win, and he knows very well that he's not going to win next year. And that's why he's trying to masquerade around.
But the president
are you getting the concept?
The president-elect of Ghana has also vied several times and finally beat an incumbent.
You cannot, don't Kitili, whatever happened in Ghana cannot replicate. The current president of Ghana, if you look at the reputation of that president, is quite different with those we don't know. Even God is quite confused. We don't know who is the presidential candidate, and that's why I don't want to explain. If we could have known the presidential flag bearer of NASA or COD, then we could have analyzed the personality. But if you look at Mudavadi, Mudavadi is a coward. He's not a brave warrior. Look at Kalonzo Musyoka. Kalonzo has led the Kamba community for many years. And look at what Governor Mutua did within 4 years. If Kalonzo could have replicated the same for all those years,
all that into perspective.
So Kalonzo is not qualified.
So
Wetangula has not even numbers. So they depend on Raila, which Luo nation we are tired.
So the
this
opposition,
time around, we are telling Raila that we are tired and we want the president to pay attention to the problems.
Hold it there. So this is the verdict of the Bonke's verdict that the opposition has nobody that can be president of Kenya. Prof.
Of course, those comments are laughable. I mean, you'll appreciate the emptiness of those comments. The first thing is that every Kenyan, whether he's currently leading or not leading a political party, but is an able-minded, sober-minded individual, is a prospective candidate for the presidency. You cannot, at any point in time, prejudge anybody. For example, Uhuru Kenyatta is president. Ruto is deputy president. These guys have never really managed anything in their professional lives, and they don't even actually have professionals. So for an individual talking about exemplary presidents, of course, quite clearly, the benchmarks, the yardsticks are non-existent. Two, I wanted to say something. It's extremely important for, we are supporting Jubilee, you're supporting Uhuru Kenyatta, that you put everybody else in perspective. A dismissive approach to the other people will not help you to run the country. Three, I want to make a very important point. The people around the proposed NASA have all given different services to this country in the past. All of them, really without exception. It's extremely important to look at it this way, that although they have given service to this country in different capacities in the past, it is important that we don't focus on individuals. In other words, we are focusing on Musalia, we are focusing on building a network that will enable us to offer an effective challenge to Jubilee.
All right.
We are not quarreling. We are not
NASA
quarreling.
will start with an individual
We are not quarreling.
No,
we are not quarreling.
No, I'm saying.
You are speaking.
God
Let
will
me
start
finish.
as an
Let
individual.
me finish.
All right.
So that's why we are allowed to discuss
in 30
personalities.
seconds only, so that we can talk to Jared and Brian. So what is your final thought on this?
On this particular one, first of all, the proposal is positive, and clearly it's effective because the government is reacting nervously to it. All right? So what we are saying is this. We just hope that they will find a common idea that will go into things like the summit. You know, there was a summit during those good old days.
All right.
Now, if this can develop into a summit where each party has an input which becomes necessary for the whole to function.
All right. Otsotsi, is your party leader a coward?
Coward of the county.
You know, I don't want to answer this gentleman because he's very myopic, and that is a reflection of myopic leadership of Jubilee. And that's why they're failing this country. Honorable Musalia Mudavadi cannot and will never be a coward. This is a gentleman who has made tough decisions for this country. You remember when he was a minister for finance, he made tough decisions at a time when his deputy president, William Ruto, they had wrecked this country through YK92. He came, salvaged this country. We are aware that some banks were closed through his instructions. You cannot make such decisions if you are a coward. So please look for another narrative to apportion to Musalia Mudavadi. Musalia Mudavadi is rattling these people. When they see Musalia Mudavadi with Raila Odinga, they get rattled. And I can assure you, NASA is real, powerful, and is coming with a force that is going to get Jubilee out of power.
All right, I want
the
us
wind
to
of change
Yes.
in Africa is real. We saw what happened in Malawi. We saw what happened in Nigeria. We have seen what happened in Gambia. We have seen what happened in Ghana. The next place we are going to see a big change is Kenya in August 2017.
Because of time, I want to move this conversation next to the next level, and that is what is the potential? I know we are saying that NASA is still an idea, but what is the potential? Who's the potential flag bearer? What is the potential winning formula? Before hold that thought, let's bring in Jared Okello. Jared, we're almost forgetting you, but what do you think would be the winning formula for NASA? Who would be the flag bearer according to you, and maybe the running mate? What would be the plan?
Thank you, Ben. Firstly, allow me to respond a little bit to what Brother Bonke has said. Bonke, I hear from you, is a new guy in this show. I think it is important for him to know that we don't trivialize the Sunday edition. We don't just drop names for the sake of it. Our analysis is based on evidence or a clear-cut hypothetical view that can convince an old mama in the village. he made an allegation that, Gideon Moi cannot go against his father because his father supports Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes, Gideon Moi went against Uhuru Kenyatta's candidate in Kericho,
Right.
and he will go against Uhuru Kenyatta's candidacy in 2017. Secondly, Raila Odinga has done so much for the people of Nyanza. We now are very proud to have the international airport in Kisumu, state of the art, very new, very modern. The road from Mau Summit all the way to Kisumu, built courtesy of Raila Odinga, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Kenya. The road from Kisumu all the way to Bondo, the one going to Luanda Kotino, the one going to Busia, from Kisumu to Homa Bay to Migori, all these were done under the leadership of one Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. And we are not, obligated to really parade his credentials. But lastly, Raila Odinga has built Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University, Great Lakes University, and so many other tertiary institutions. But let me come back to your question now.
Very quickly, Jared. We don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, who is going to be the flag bearer? Politics in Kenya is very local to the extent that people would want to see their own person representing their interest in any political formation. That is why Raila Odinga, by virtue of NAC coalition, won in 2002. That is how Raila Odinga won in 2007, though Kibaki stole his victory. That is how he won in 2013. The decision was challenged in a court of law, but let's just live by what the Supreme Court said, even though we are not in agreement with that decision. Why I'm saying politics is local is because people want to see one of their own, particularly the kingpin from a region, representing their interest. That is why NASA's main objective is to bring everybody on board and hence push Jubilee out of power as one united front. And then positions will be negotiated at that level.
Thank you,
It is
Jared.
too early in the day to say with exactitude who is going to be the flag bearer and who is going to be the deputy. But NASA is something that is going to be real, Ben.
All right, thank you, Jared. Let's now bring you an update, and we have been showing you a live picture of our signal at the Harambee House, where that expected joint press briefing is expected to be. We will be bringing it live to you in the next few minutes, anytime from now. The Interior Cabinet Secretary Joseph Nkaiseri, the Inspector General of Police Joseph Boynet, as well as the National Disaster Management Unit, as well as the Secretary General of the Kenya Red Cross Abbas Gulet, will be addressing the media, will be giving Kenyans an update of what has been happening on that in that horrific accident along the Naivasha-Nakuru road. We shall be taking you live to the Harambee House very shortly. Also, the Deputy President has made his way to the scene in Naivasha and has pledged that the government will be helping all the victims that have been involved in that accident, all people who have lost their loved ones. The government, the Ruto says, will help transport the bodies of those who lost their lives to the Chiromo, as well as the city mortuaries here in Nairobi. That is the latest update. We shall be speaking to Rita Tinina very shortly. We shall also be taking you live to Victor Ogale at the Naivasha District Hospital mortuary, also to tell us what has been happening there. Remember, the Disaster Management Unit did give an advisory to all those Kenyans, members of the public who might be looking for their loved ones, to report at a center there, so that process of identifying potential loved ones is done in a sober manner. Remember, a lot of the bodies have been burnt beyond recognition and would require a DNA test to ascertain their identities. We have been able to ascertain some of those who lost their life. There are a wedding party that was making their way from Subukia in the county of Nakuru rather, and also a GSU Land Cruiser that was carrying members, police officers also. Those police officers among those who perished in that road accident. Let's come back to the politics here rather. Let's now seek the input of Brian Mutie. Brian, what do NASA need to do? And do you think that NASA have the qualities of the National Rainbow Coalition in 2002, in your opinion?
It has all the qualities of the NAC coalition, Rainbow Coalition, that swept into power in 2002. But the biggest worry that I have as a person and as an analyst is how NASA is going to make sure that it satisfies the political egos and the needs of all the key protagonists who are playing in this field. First of all, they have actually, told us that, according to naysayers, that they are likely to actually shift from the presidential system that we have been treated to by the new constitution into a parliamentary one. And they have actually come up with all sorts of, arrangements with the prime minister's slots being brought on board, issues to do the deputy prime ministers, deputy presidents, and all that. And if you look at that, it is a presidential system, which is not actually in the constitution, and therefore they have told us that when they win, they will actually, opt for a referendum for the country now to, legally adopt a new system. But one thing that I want to say, Ben, is actually the dilemma of ensuring that they have a winning ticket that now takes us to that sort of direction. Is it Kalonzo Musyoka Wetangula? Is it Raila Musalia ticket? Or is it Musalia Raila ticket? All these kind of pairings are something that are actually sending, a lot of, upheavals within the coalition itself. And therefore, if they are able to break that ceiling in terms of coming with a pair that's going to be acceptable and a pair that's going to be able to give Jubilee run for their money, I think their deal will be done and they'll be able now at least to match even the Jubilee juggernaut, which is actually priding itself as having set its house in order.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. So our work here is trying to analyze this. I know we've said NASA is a message, is an idea, but we have to tell Kenyans, we have to analyze for Kenyans where this goes next. Where does this go next, Dismas?
I think for Kalonzo, Wetangula, and Musalia is to have a candid conversation with Mr. Raila Odinga and look at a sensitivity analysis or analyze a number of scenarios and find out who amongst them stands the biggest chance of beating President Kenyatta. And whichever method they use, if they want to go to Rome and Italy and go to that chimney the Catholic Church uses and get a smoke, whatever it is. But as soon as they establish a candidate, they must not make that candidate public till the last minute. Because as you can see Bonke screaming here, Jubilee cannot wait to find out, is it going to be Wetangula, Kalonzo, Raila, or Musalia, and zoom in. The deputy president is so nervous, he cannot wait. Because right now, when they are doing their strategy on a big wall, they've got about 6 names. Because even Isaac Ruto is in the mix, Gideon Moi could be in the mix, Munya could be in the mix. Even Ben Kitili could be a presidential candidate. NASA may just come for you. So that is keeping them nervous. But I think more important is they should identify with Wanjiku's aspirations and cumulative interests. Because right now, as the professor has indicated, there are Kenyans are looking for a competent president, and Bonke says President Kenyatta is very competent. He's taken Kenya to the next level. Now, that's the kind of information we want from Jubilee, that actually the president is competent. When he took over, a kilo of unga maybe was 10 shillings. Now it's gone to 5 shillings. Everybody can afford. We need to have those parameters. And also for NASA, they also need to tell us that based on our track record, this is what we've been able to do in the past, and this is what we're going to do in the future. And for Bonke to come here and tell us that Raila Odinga has not delivered, say, for Nyanza province. And obviously, I only know brief like Jared did. No, Jared was very vicious. But Raila Odinga has never been president in this kind of a constitution. Raila has never had this kind of a budget. So for Jubilee, if they want to compare apples and pies, that's a mistake. They must compare an apple with an apple.
Bonke, who among the potential presidential flag bearers are you worried about most as Jubilee?
We are not worried of any. We are waiting for these cordoners people to present their able presidential candidate, and we will show them dust. Now, let me respond to my brother who is in Kisumu. He's saying Raila did what from wherever to Usenge. Now, from Kisumu, where he's calling us, or where he's calling us from, if you go to Kisumu right now, the majority of young people, the 90% are not employed. And this is what Raila has been using. Raila has been using these young people to, Raila has been using these young people to manipulate their brain. Are you getting it? So if you
All
wanted
right.
to use as, if you wanted to use it like now all the mandamanos we've been having in Kenya, is how many lives did we lose in Nyanza? Look at what we had in Nyanza, and he did nothing about it. We are just tired of that. And if Raila had the solution for this country, and he knows very well that he cannot win the presidential election,
All right, Bonke.
Raila could have proposed somebody.
All right, let me
From
I have to
Nyanza.
interrupt this. We'll get back to this. Let's now, of course, bring in that breaking story. Let's